Give me what I deserve. Thank you, Wes. That wasn't the word that I used, but that's a good word. Give me what I deserve. What I was reading into it is, yes, Michael?
In one of my translations it says, he inappropriately said.
He inappropriately said, kind of like the deserve. And I'm going to suggest to you another word. It's not just give me, it's give me now. I want it now. I want my inheritance now. I don't want to wait for you to be so old that you die and pass away and then I inherit, because then I'm going to be old and I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. I want it now while I can enjoy it. In my old age, I can't enjoy it. I want it now. Give me now. Does that sound like anything in modern day age? The instant on, instant off, give it to me and give it to me now? I want it now. I don't want to wait. Lord, give me patience and give me patience now. By the time that you are gone, I will be old, too old to enjoy my inheritance. And so he divided his living. Question, was it the son's property? What was that, Debbie? Go ahead. Not yet. But will it be his property? Perhaps, yeah, someday. But it's not his property today, and yet he's asking for it today. So, question, could the father have said no? The father said no, yes? He could have, but he didn't. So, next question is, was the father wise in saying yes rather than no? Was the father wise? I see everybody looking down, they're counting their toes, they're checking that fingernail. As it turns out, no. Was the father foolish? The opposite of wise. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I think the father knew that the son had lessons to learn, and, he had to learn, maybe the hard way.
If,
Perhaps had a bad attitude at home.
that's possible. Sure. Yes.
I think along those same lines, the father in doing that allows his son to fall flat on his face, but yet also allows him the opportunity to come back and feel the real depth of his father's love. No matter what you've done, you're my son, I love you.
So perhaps the father was wise. He took a risk. Could have lost the son forever, right? Okay. Janine, read verse 13 for us, please.
Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living.
What was that word? Squandered. We're going to get to that in just a minute, but I wanted to write it down so I don't forget it. So, why did it take the son so long to leave? Dad gave him all the stuff, but a few days later, the son leaves. Why did it take him that long to leave? Did he have trouble getting a U-Haul? Won't it all fit in the U-Haul? Can't he get a bigger one? Just order a bigger one? What's the problem? Why did it take the son a few days to leave? Does it matter? No, but in my mind, there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of property. It's almost as if his father had great holdings. He's going to have to round up a few people to drive all the camels for him and get the donkeys loaded with all of the trinkets and whatever it is that his father gave him. But there's a lot of things here. It's not just a little bit that you can put in a purse and tuck on your belt. It's not a MasterCard. It's got, unlimited credit. It's a bunch of stuff. And the son leaves, and where does he go? to a far-off country. To a far-off country. We don't know where. Doesn't matter, does it? It's beyond his Father's seeing. It's beyond his Father's control. It's beyond his Father's judgment. I'm going to go live the way I want to live, and I'm going to spend my inheritance. The word squandered, what does that mean? What does it mean to squander? What's it mean that he squandered? He wasted it. What did he have at the end? He invested the money wisely, just like the man with the 5 talents and the 10 talents. He invested the money wisely, right? No, he didn't. He squandered it. He wasted it on riotous living, is what the King James says. He ended up with a minus, Wes says. Okay, I like that. It's a minus squandered. Or it's a less than squandered. How's that, Wes? All right. Verse 14, please, Janine.
After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need.
Severe famine. So, it's as if Jesus now is placing emphasis here. He squandered it all. There's none left. What's he going to live on? What's he going to eat? How's he going to take care of himself? All of his newfound friends are probably no longer newfound friends. His money is gone. His resources are gone. And if that wasn't bad enough, then there is a famine in the land. It's almost as if Jesus is adding emphasis here to the story. The young man he's in a crisis mode. This is a severe state for him. Showing how low he got. Thank you, Wes. Okay. How long did it take him to spend everything? What'd you say, Greg? Doesn't matter, does it? It's just gone. How much of it's gone? Yeah. So the question now becomes, now what? For the son, for this young man, now what? What do I do now? I've never had to worry about my next meal before. I never had to worry about how I'm going to replace my torn garment. I never had to worry about shoes to wear. I don't have anything, and there's a famine in the land. Of course, he's going to call up one of his best friends, or no, they don't call it, they Twitter it or tweet, whatever you do, and get one of his buddies to come over and pick him up and help him out. No. He's on his own. Janine, verses 15 and 16, please.
So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to feed his fields and feed the pigs. He longed to put a stone in the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him.
He hired himself out, and the King James says he joined himself. What does that mean to be joined? Or the translation hired. What does that mean? He joined himself. He hired himself out to a man. Jan, I'm going to come work for you. And what are you going to offer me if I come to work for you? Breakfast in the morning, 3 squares a day, place to stay. Okay? Not uncommon for that time frame, for people to join themselves or indenture themselves to a master. Greg, I'm going to indenture myself to you. I'm going to do whatever it is that you tell me to do. I am your indentured servant, and I'm going to tend to your flocks or do whatever you ask me to do, and in return you're going to give me a place to stay, and you're going to teach me a trade or whatever. But it's like an indentured servant. That's the concept behind it, joined himself. So what real freedoms does he have if he's joined with? It's more, I think, a better word than hired is joined. It's more than hired. He's like a slave. Yes, he's an indentured servant or a slave. He's enslaved himself he gave his life to him just to survive. That's what kind of a mess he's in. He attached themselves. Yep. So, Jan, what job did you give me to do? Feed the hogs. Pretty glamorous job there, right, Jan? Thanks a lot, buddy. Feed the hogs. Any of you ever been raised on a hog farm? Anybody have you ever driven by a hog farm on a hot sunny day with the wind in your face? Yeah, so young Trooper Jack is working the freeway one day, and there's a big traffic jam, and there's a car from Indiana parked right behind the semi-truck full of pigs, hogs. And it is a hot day, and it is, yeah. And the lady rolls down her window, and I'm walking up to see what the problem is, and the lady rolls, does all of Michigan smell like this? Fortunately, no, ma'am. I think it's that semi-truck right there. We'll have it cleared up here in a minute, and you'll be on your way. Glamorous job. Somebody's got to do it. Yes, Jan?
We got a hog farmer next to us, and my ex-wife always told my kids, if you scream really loud when we drive past it, you won't smell it.
I got to try that.
So now my grandkids are screaming.
Did everybody hear that? All right. Next question I got for you is, what good Jewish family man raises swine?
Zero.
Huh? Zero. Why? Jews don't eat pork. It's an unclean animal. So I think that this shows us just a little more. This son didn't just go next door. He just didn't go to the next county over. He left the Jewish nation. He's gone somewhere far, far afield. Far, far afield. Right about now, our younger son here has to be saying to himself, what have I done? I can't go back. I mean, I've burned all my bridges. I've spent everything they gave to me. I didn't save a thing. The people I thought were my friends really were only here because I had money. I've indentured myself to this man. I'm feeding the hogs, and nobody even thought to feed me. We mentioned the pit in Matthew's lesson this morning, and I thought, ding. He's in the bottom of the pit. He's in the bottom. There's nothing but up from here. I mean, he can't go lower than this. Can you imagine what he looked like? Can you imagine what he smelled like? We can go through all of the senses up here. Yeah. Janine, I need to read 17 and 18, please.
When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired men have lived this fare? Here I am starving again. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you.
He came to his senses. He realizes that his father's servants are far better off than he is. They've got bread enough to eat and to spare, and I perish. I am in the bottom of the pit. I will arise. I'm going to take action. I will arise, and I will go to my father. And this is very important, I think. At this point, he said, I have sinned against heaven. If you quickly read through the prodigal son, you would think to yourself, and I've sinned against you, Father, and ask me back. No, it's not what it says. What the scripture says is, I have sinned against heaven. And in your eyes, in your sight, Father. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 12. I'll read it for you. Honor thy father and thy mother, that the days may be long upon the land which the Lord shall give thee. It's often referred to as the first commandment with promise. Mhm. So, Exodus chapter 20. Yep. Verse 12. It's also known as the Ten Commandments, right? And I think it's about number 6 down the list there, depending on how you count. But what is it, Lois? It's 4. Okay, thank you. Honor thy father and thy mother. So, question. Did he honor his father in asking for his inheritance early? Everybody shake your head left to right. No, he did not. He did not honor his father. Did he honor his mother with his riotous living, with his wasteful living, squandering his father's inheritance? No. He has sinned against heaven. Yes, he sinned. And yes, it impacted his father, but he sinned against heaven. And this young man, from the depths of this pit, looking up, realizes, I've sinned against heaven. Not just against my mother, not just against my father. I've sinned against heaven. Wes, do you have a question?
Well, it may not have been wrong for him to get his inheritance, but he certainly didn't live right once he had it.
Good point, Wes. Take that a step farther. Let's take that one step farther, though. When does the testament become in effect? Think about Jesus now. The last will and testament, when did it take effect? Upon the death of the testator. Right. When does the will become in effect? Upon the death of the person who made out the will. When do I expect my inheritance? When my parents pass away, when they are no longer with us. So I think if you take it a step farther, I think both aspects are along west, but surely the living was not what his father intended for him. Janine, read verse 19, please.
I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired ones.
I am no longer worthy to be called what? Your son. Whoa. If this young man looking up hasn't seen the handwriting on the wall, I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Why? Because I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. No longer worthy to be called your son. It sounds almost as if he recognizes he's a sinner and he needs the blood of Jesus to approach his Father. Strange, isn't it, that this parable didn't begin, the kingdom of heaven is like, and yet we're seeing that message right here, aren't we? The kingdom of heaven is like. Restore to me my position of honor? No. Didn't ask that. Just allow me to come back in to your household as a hired servant, as an indentured servant. Let me join myself to you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Father, I've come to my senses. Just treat me as an servant. Verse 20, Janine.
So he got up and went to his father.
He got up. Where's my blue one? King James says he arose. He got up. It's one thing to have good intentions, and you know where good intentions get you? Nothing. He got up. He put his thoughts into action. That's what the Bible is constantly reminding us. It's all right to believe, even the devils believe, but you need to act. You need to obey. You need to do what the Lord asked you to do. He got up, and what did he do? He started pedaling. He started hiking. Verse 20, Janine. Oh, you just, go ahead.
But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him.
He ran to him. His father sees him from coming a long day a ways off, and he ran to him. And the King James says he kissed his neck. That greeting, that warm greeting. Remember the lost sheep? The man puts the sheep onto his shoulders and he returns rejoicing. Remember the lost coin? The woman finds it, she calls together her friends, and she rejoices because there will be that much and more rejoicing in heaven about the sinner who was lost. And now the story of the son. The father sees him coming and rejoices and goes forward to meet him and kisses him and welcomes him back. And what was the son? Go ahead, Wes.
I'd like to back up that verse before.
We can't go backwards. Oh, go ahead.
Where he says, make me. So he's gone from give me to make me.
Ah, very good, Wes.
Yeah.
Did you catch that in the back? Wes says he went from give me to make me. Make me what, Les?
Make me one of your hired men.
Make me one of your hired men. Good point, Wes. Excellent. Janine, I read 21 for us.
The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.
Exactly what he had said in his heart, he does. From looking up out of that deep pit, realizing what he has done, he sets that plan into motion, and he carries it through. He does exactly what he said. Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. Not worthy to be called your son. 20 through 24, Janine.
But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate.
I want to take a look first at the first half of that. I want you to imagine this son who's gone into a far land and he's been feeding the swine. Nobody will even give him something to eat. What does he look like? Can you imagine what he must have looked like? I mean, cleanly shaven and freshly showered, right? Got on a little what do you call that? Old Spice or? I have a picture in my mind that this is one shabby looking little man here. And quite a bit thinner. He's gaunt. He's probably sleepless. I don't know how far away this far off land was, but he didn't catch the bus. The only way he's going to get home is TWA, and he probably doesn't even have shoes because his father says, get him some shoes. What do you think his clothing looked like?
Well, he'd been feeding pigs.
He'd been feeding.
I don't think he was too sharp looking.
Yeah. You know, you go to Jan's, and Jan has his clothes for the barn. He takes the barn clothes off when he comes into his house. Why? So the house smells like a nice, fresh house instead of the barn. This young man doesn't have a change of boots and a change of clothes. He came in what he's got. I think you're going to see one shabby, gaunt, smelly. How many other words can we come up with?
And yet the father threw his arms around him and pulled him.
The father ran right up to him and hugged him and kissed him.
Boy is humble.
The boy is humbled. B sent out an email this week, And in that email, it reminded us of the story of Jesus, and he's talking to those who, in the day of judgment, he's saying, I needed clothes, you clothed me. I needed food, and I was hungry, and you fed me. And I was in prison, and you came to visit me. I was sick, and you came and you healed me. Lord, when did we do that to you? Inasmuch as you did it unto the least of my brethren, you did it unto me. And the quote that B shared with us, it was from an unknown source, if I remember this right, B, but it basically said, we need to see in Jesus those people as Jesus' brothers, as Jesus' friends, as Jesus. We need to see those people as Christ's brothers. Here's this young man who is gaunt, who is shabby, who smells like swine, who he's anything but a pretty picture. We need to see them as the Father did and run to them and feed them and clothe them and give them something to drink. Yes, Diane?
I always found it interesting that when the Father saw him, he was still a long way off, and the Father ran to him.
Yep. The Father ran to him and hugged him and kissed him. We don't know how far off the far way off is. Perhaps he had his binoculars or whatever, but it doesn't matter. The Father recognized him and went to him. What's it, Jan?
Waiting for him.
He was waiting. He was waiting for him. He was anxiously awaiting him. Yes, Diane.
And the illustration of the compassion of God.
Yeah.
There's no anger, there's no, oh, I'll get even. It's his compassion and love for his son.
For God is long suffering, not willing that any should perish, but all should come unto repentance. And so what does the Father tell the servants to do? Give him a robe, clothe him. Give him shoes for his feet, put a ring on his finger. Honor him and rejoice and rejoice. And notice that in the verse there it says, they began to be merry. Who was they? All of his servants, the whole household, they began to be merry. It's as if Jesus is painting a picture here once again. The lost soul who's been found, and what do the angels in heaven do? They rejoice. All of them. It's as if Jesus is painting that picture again for us, as well as the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They began to rejoice, just like the angels in heaven. 25 through 30, Janine.
Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what's going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed a fatted calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours has squandered your property and a prostitute, he comes home, you build a fatted calf for him?
Many lessons to be learned here in each facet of this parable. But it's as if now he's turning to the Pharisees and the scribes themselves, and he's saying, scribes, Pharisees, religious leaders, do you notice the older son? I served you. Did you catch that? It's a capital I, by the way. I served you. I never transgressed, that I may make merry. Scribes and Pharisees and religious leaders, you have forgotten the flock. You've made it all about you. You wear your rich robes, you wear your phylacteries, you stand in the temple. May I remind you of what Jesus said? The Pharisee went into the temple and he cast his tithe into the box. Think about a brass box with a funnel on the top, and when you cast a heavy coin in it, it makes a lot of noise. He cast it into the box, and what did he say? He raised his eyes to heaven and he said, I am so glad that I am not like this poor sinner. And the poor sinner said, wouldn't even look up to heaven. Repented. Scribes and Pharisees, you've missed the point. And not only have you missed the point, you're turning away from the flock. You're turning them away from heaven. 31 and 32, please.
My son, the father said, you are always with me, everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.
We need to conclude this morning, so I wanted to share a couple of thoughts with you. First, Jesus told them the parable of the lost sheep, a possession, and how there will be rejoicing in heaven about the finding of that lost soul. And then he told them the parable of the coin and the significance of that coin and how there will be rejoicing in heaven in one that's lost. And now he tells them about the Son. It's as if he is saying, scribes, Pharisees, religious leaders, children of Abraham, tend my sheep, tend my flock, bring healing to the sick, strengthen the faint of heart, rejoice that when one was lost is now found, and lay up your treasures in heaven. I'm going to invite all of you, if you will, to think of this last parable now. Just think of this parable. Close your eyes and bow your heads. Listen to the words of King David. Let my cry come near before thee, O Lord. Give me understanding according to thy word. Let my supplications come before thee. Deliver me according to thy word. My lips shall utter praise when thou hast taught me thy statutes. My tongue shall speak of thy word, for all thy commandments are righteousness. Let thine hand help me, for I have chosen thy precepts. I have longed for thy salvation, O Lord, and thy law is my delight. Let my soul live, and it shall praise thee, and let my judgments help me. I have gone astray like a lost sheep. Seek thy servant, for I do not forget thy commandments. Thank you for coming this morning. May God bless you all.